Hi everyone, Messy Coder back again with another game dev interview, and in this video I'm talking to Adam Goodrich, the creator of Gaia, CTS, Gena and Pegasus. This video is the first part of a series where I'm talking to Adam. He's going to be showing off Gena and Gaia, and we're going to be putting together a little demo scene and showing you just how you can use these wonderful tools. This video was taken on my live Twitch stream, all the W's, twitch.tv/themessycoder, where you can come and see me every weekend playing about, making games, talking to game developers, and sometimes we give away some juicy free assets and toys to play with. And if you watch this video, you're going to find out how you can win a copy of Gaia for yourself. That's right, we'll be giving away a copy of Gaia to one lucky winner. And this copy of Gaia that we'll be giving away has been sponsored by Fine. Fine is a member of the Messy community. You can find the community over on Discord, a link down in the description below. So a massive thank you to Fine for giving us a copy of Gaia to give away. And thank you very much to everyone who's subscribing on YouTube, which is free. It's free to subscribe. It's free to follow on Twitter as well, and on Twitch. And everyone who's paying and subscribing on Twitch as well. Thank you so much for helping to keep this channel alive, and by your support means the world to me. I am humbled beyond words. Now sit back, get yourself ready. I'll see you in a second where we'll delve straight in to our interview with Adam Goodrich. We're going to be talking about Gena and Gaia, and I want to say before we kick off anything, what made you choose these fantastic names for these kits?
Well, I was trying to find something that described what the tools do. Gaia is the goddess or Mother Earth, so that seemed like a great name. I fell in love with the name and launched Gaia, and then I thought, okay, so how does this search? And it turns out that everything on the internet that's got some sort of new age thing is somehow related to Gaia. And so with Gena, I went, okay, I need a name that's a little bit more unique. And it's actually an Aboriginal name, which means to plant. So I thought, well, that's exactly what Gena does. And I really love the sound of the name as well. So yeah, both of them actually have real meaning and real significance.
I love the name Gena as well. And it's very easy to search for when you're looking in the asset store as well.
Well, that's right. The whole search thing, I didn't think about search so much with Gaia. In fact, I was very surprised at how well Gaia did. I finally thought I had something that was worth publishing, and that wasn't really the intention. I was just sharing my work, and it's been such a life changer actually. That was about 2 years ago that I launched it, and now I do this full time. It's been great.
So what actually got you interested in Unity in the first place, and then thinking that you'll give it a punt and start pushing something on an asset store?
Well, it's a bit of an unusual story, I suppose. About 8 years ago, I had a digital agency of about 100 odd people, which I'd started with some other guys, and we sold it. It was just for the GFC, and so I was in this situation where I had money, so I didn't have to work for a while. And I thought, well, what do I want to do next? I want to do something that helps people. So that I started a company that was actually all about doing waterproof GPSs for surfers. And we actually did a deal with Billabong, which was going great guns until they went into Chapter 11. But I proved that with measurement you could understand how people behave in certain contexts. And then, I did another business which is all about helping tradesmen to succeed in their businesses, because most tradies go out of business. So when I say tradie, I mean plumber, electrician, painter, small business trades type people. And did a deal with another big multinational with that one, and that one's still kicking away in the background. And so then it got to, in order to help people, because my thing's all about helping people. I want to help people to help themselves. So I'm there, okay, now that I've got, I've sorted out this behavioral influence, now I need to go deeper into this, and I need to be able to educate people, and also to to educate them and guide them. And I've always been fascinated with multiplayer games and how people come together. So I thought, well, maybe I'll have a bit of a look at which engines are relatively easy to learn, because I thought game technology would be a great way to get into this. And I chose Unity, and I think, in hindsight, that was a very good decision. And then the first thing that presented when I opened up Unity as an enterprise tech guy was this big blank screen full of nothingness. And I found that really overwhelming. So I bought, one of the other tools, and I spent a month on it, and I couldn't really understand. Yeah, I created, got overwhelmed by this emptiness. I explored another tool, found it too difficult to use. And I guess, I sort of, despite, usability is a big thing for me. If you can't use something, it's not worth really anything. So I went, well, that's not usable. So I started exploring, environments to test some of my ideas in. And, I built 3 different systems actually before I came up with the idea behind Gaia. And that the stamping concept was that magic aha moment. And what I was trying to do was bring the best of fractal generation together with the power you get when you place a 3D model into the scene. So literally you can just put something here, put something there, and there it is. So where I ended up to with Gaia was I want to design my world the way I want the world. So that's what I built, and it's done very, very well.
Well, one of the things that makes your kits unique, not only the functionality they get, it is the usability. It's very easy to just pick them up, and with a little bit of playing about, the UI is very natural to get your hands on, very intuitive. And there's a lot of people in chat talking about how much they love Gaia, especially. But also Secret Anorak saying, don't forget about good old Pegasus to fly around in as well. You can't forget that.
Well, I was creating all these beautiful environments as I was testing and building Gaia. And sometimes, when I was using the random generator, I'd get this really, really epic environment, which I never would have thought of to make it up myself. I went, wow, that's really cool. Then I went, okay, I need to be able to record this, because the stuff lives for 10 minutes. And then I delete it, and then I'm trying something else as I'm trying out different techniques. So I thought I need a fly-through tool so I can record video of these environments. And I went and looked in the asset store, and there was nothing that did what I wanted. So, in my usual style, I went, okay, I'll create something that does it. And that was why Pegasus was born, because literally I wanted to go click, 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 spend 10 minutes and get a nice video fly-through.
I remember when you started showing it, I was a bit taken aback about why there wasn't anything out there already. And it was like one of those, like you saying, an aha moment. And that you just think, well, why is this now only just come about? And it's a lot like Gaia as well. I mean, before Gaia, obviously, there was Terrain Composer. And I think other than Map Magic, that was about it. But there just wasn't anything that you could just pick up and just start using. There was obviously we're not going to get into a comparison study here at the moment, and Terrain Composer is a powerful, well, the original one was a powerful, and obviously without it there wouldn't be a lot of projects that would be able to look as good as they did. But one of the problems was that every time you used it, if you didn't use it every day, you would go 1 week and then forget entirely how you would use Terrain Composer. And I think everyone that I spoke to had exactly the same problem, that unless you were constantly using it, next time you went to use it, you had to pick up a manual, watch a video again, and learn it again from the beginning. And this is one of the great things about your kits. And I say this even when you're not on a Skype call to me, or just smoke.
Be nice while I'm on the line.
Be nice when you're on the line. Is that fair play? You do make something easy to use. And that leads us to let's just kick in a quick couple of questions before the guys decide to string me up, because we've got a very nice question here from Wolshan that's basically asking, okay, and I've asked you this. Do you remember, like, I've just annoyed you many times in the past by saying, okay, what would I actually use each of these for? So, like, you've got here, what are the differences between Gaia, Gena, and CTS?
Okay, good question. So I guess you start with Gaia. You know, Gaia is a tool that's really good for creating the world itself. So Gaia, it will allow you to terraform your terrain and texture it and fill it full of content. And it's all done procedurally, or you can go manually. It's somewhere, you know, you choose which way you want to go. And what the intention of Gaia is to make, it's like your big fat roller brush when you're painting. It does the broad brush strokes on your environment. So Gaia, you know, gets you an environment, and you can run quite happily with Gaia by itself. If you look at Crowfall, all of their environments are actually made with Gaia. The next tool that sort of fits into this is Gena. And Gena, so the interesting thing with Gaia is when you get into, you know, you do your beautiful big environment, then you still want to customize it. So that customization happens with Gena, and the magic of Gena. So I learned a lot of things doing Gaia, and I'm not looking at the questions because they just stop it breaking my train of thought, so I'm not ignoring them. So when you have Gaia do the heavy lifting in your environment, but environments are interesting because people place stuff into them, and it's I think it's people that make interesting environments. So the intention of Gena was to make it easy to do very, very customizable and controlled sub-spawning, I suppose. It's like, instead of the big broad roller brush, this is like the touch-up brush. It's the narrow brush which you add in the detail to. And what Gena does is, there's a couple of things it does that I learned from Gaia. First of all, it's way faster in terms of its ability to spawn stuff into your scene. It works across multiple terrains. It works on meshes as well. It can spawn onto anything. And what it does is, where you click on the terrain, Gena will sample, or on a mesh, Gena will sample that. What's the height? What's the slope? What are the textures? And Gena gives you the ability to find like areas. And Gena can put, you know, a stand of trees in there. It can put grass in. It can put a nice little cemetery. So it borrows from some of the power of Gaia, but it introduces a whole bunch of new stuff. So Gena is really smart. And actually, you know, how did Gena start? I got contacted by Crowfall, and they said, hey, could you recreate this for us? So I sent a Gaia profile back in a couple of hours, and sure, I was able to recreate the generic, you know, the general art style that they have in that game. But I went, but it doesn't do cliffs. And if you look at how cliffs work, you know, in Unity you have your underlying terrain, which is sort of blobby and pretty horrible. So often in games, what you'll see is the underlying terrain decorated with meshes, like rock meshes and houses and so on and so on. So when I need to be able to do cliffs, so you know, the first thing I built was a thing that, you know, exported contours out of the environment, and I realized that even when you have a contour map, that still doesn't work out, just doesn't help you procedurally work out how to put cliffs. So then I actually, you know, had the aha moment. Well, actually, cliffs are usually regional, and they're often, you know, you put the cliffs in the way you want them to be there. So that's actually what I did with Gena. I made that localized control so that I could build cliffs. So actually, I have Crowfall to thank for the inspiration to create Gena. So that's Gaia and Gena. The next product in the tool suite is CTS, or the Complete Terrain Shader, and that's a collaboration between Nature Manufacture, or BART, and myself. And so Bart is an amazing shader coder, so he did all the shader coding. Then I did all the profile system and all the rest of the work that brings that together and turns it into a usable system. And so when you know, with the default thing that comes out of Gaia, you get Unity terrain. And what you get with CTS, is the ability to really dress that Unity terrain up and to paint interesting textures on it, interesting lighting, height blending, detail, you know, removal of tiling. And so with a couple of clicks now with CTS, you can turn your, what I would call a very boring Unity terrain into a really interesting terrain. And so now I can't even look at normal Unity terrain, which is what you get out of Gaia. Because what Gaia does is it works with what you've got in the engine. The idea, one of the ideas behind Gaia is that you start with Unity and you end with Unity. Gaia just does all the work in between for you. And the cool thing about that is that means Gaia will work with any other tool you've got. So if you like to have your own custom terrain shading like CTS, you can use that, or you can use other terrain shaders. Or, you know, if you're doing some other thing that relies on, you know, some aspect of the normal Unity environmental pipeline, then it'll just work because Gaia just does Unity. Whereas CTS, we change Unity, we change the terrain shader for our own. Yeah, I love CTS. There's some really, really cool stuff coming with CTS, working on doing mesh blending at the moment, and looking at further ways of optimizing the shader as well. There's some very new and cool features coming out in the latest amplifier. What else are we doing? Things like the ability to use masking on your color masks, so you can blend them in and out. It's a bunch of other stuff, I can't remember. But yeah, CTS continues to improve. The mesh blending, there's quite a lot of work and support in that. Bart's done the basic shader work, but again, to get something that's as usable as I like it to be, the mesh, we need to paint those meshes, and so I've got to build a tool, and I've never done that before, so still learning how to do it. Some of this stuff takes a bit of time. So there you go. The difference between Gaia and CTS is Gaia is for your broad brush strokes and terrain generation. CTS is, and CTS is to make that look pretty, and then Gena is all about putting in the fine details.
So your workflow is basically you'd start first with Gaia, and then you would put your trees, rocks down with Gena. What would you choose for the grass? Would you choose Gaia for your grass or Gena for your grass? Actually,
I use pretty much Gena for everything now. I really love, so for me, I mean, everybody's different. Some people like pure procedural stuff. I like using procedural tools because I think they help you to get stuff done quicker, but I actually think it's the artist that brings the terrain to life. So the reason I tend to use Gena more is I like to have complete control over what goes where. So I tend to use, you know, I always lay the big stuff down first. So first I'll do the terrain and texture it, and then I'll put my, you know, my trees, or maybe actually I'll probably put in rocks first, rocks and buildings and that sort of stuff, which I would typically use Gena for. And then I'll put in my trees. And the reason I go from large down to small is I'm using collisions to choose how to procedurally place things. So if you, you know, if you have your rocks, your big rocks and your houses, and then you go to place a tree, well, the algorithms inside of Gena and Gaia will avoid placing the tree through the middle of the house or through the middle of the rock. So when I do the grass, I always do that last, because usually you've laid everything else down and you don't want the grass to grow through the middle of your house. You want it to go around your house and around the rock and so on.
I like how in the tutorials you had, so if you're placing down logs and things, they're above the ground, and then they drop down, and then you've got the position of them, so they're like naturally scattered.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was. I just thought, you know, most of this stuff, it just doesn't look natural, and so actually that's the other thing. You know, what Gaia and Gena are pretty good at doing is fairly natural environments, and so along those lines, I thought logs and rocks and things, they should go where gravity puts them. So that was the whole concept of that gravity-based spawning in Gena. And you can get some really interesting results with it because you get this natural scatter happening. So if you want, a rock fall at the bottom of the hill, use the gravity spawning capability of Gena, and you'll get stuff that, and it's also actually just fun watching it. When you press play and it actually runs out the physics, you can watch these logs and rocks and so on rolling downhill.
We just got a couple of questions in chat before we lose them. So we've got Secret Anorak asking here, are tiled terrains coming anytime soon?
Yes.
That's a heavy question.
And I know, it's a really good question. So it's the Gaia 2 question. So Gaia 2, multi-tiled terrains, I've spent a lot of time. Gaia 2, it's been a long and interesting history, I suppose. I have built... Gaia 2 actually works. It doesn't have the polish that it needs to be launched yet, but I've actually built GPU-based acceleration multi-tiled terrains, and it's brilliantly fast. It's, where a terrain might take 15 to 20 to 30 seconds to put down with Gaia 1, we can do a multi-tiled terrain in 10 milliseconds, maybe 150 milliseconds in Gaia 2. So on the GPU, it's incredibly fast. And I've added in a whole new, really interesting fractal exploration mode, and so on and so on. But I've also, what I've discovered is this space is getting more and more crowded. I know that Unity is about to release a new terrain system. When I say about to, it's at least a year away. And I talked to Unity about this. So there's some really amazing stuff that I've already built in Gaia 2, but what I've because I've put years and years of work into this stuff, and I come from a business background, so I can't keep doing this and expect to go broke. And if I just do what I'm going to do with Gaia 2, in a year's time, when Unity releases their terrain system, there's every chance that I'll go broke, and I now support my family doing this. So I had to change it up, and I have... In November last year, I made a fairly big decision to change direction. And as a result, Gaia 2 is still coming, but I've changed the way I'm going to do it and also what it does. So some of the cool things that will come in Gaia 2, which you can look forward to, is essentially infinite world support. So this thing will support, planet Earth. So huge streaming environments. But there's a lot more that's coming, which, just because I've discovered that this space is very, very competitive, I won't share with you just yet until it's ready to go out. But there's a lot more that's coming in Gaia 2 that can be used in many different ways. And games is just one aspect of where I'm going with it. Yeah. Look, there is a new terrain system coming with Unity. I know that it's something that's happening there, but it's still early days. What I'm hoping is that I'll be able to work with Unity, so they will expose, give me early access to this stuff, so I can take all the tools that I've developed and leverage them with their new terrain tools as well. So to give you an example, like they've released their new visual shader system, but Amplify still has a huge amount of value to add with their node-based shader system. So I'm hoping the same thing will happen with Gaia. So when is it coming? So some other things that are happening is I'm expanding my business. I've hired an amazing man to become my chief operating officer. He, amongst other things, was once upon a time a venture capitalist. He's been heavily involved in the whole VC community here in Australia. And I have this massive vision for what I want to do with this technology. And I've managed to convince him that some of these ideas are good enough for him to join me. So part of that is that I'll be expanding the scope, getting funding for the business to grow it. And I'm actually busy working on what I would call an MVP, or minimum viable product, for something which Gaia 2 will be a part of, and we'll be using that to get funding to build the business to the next level. So the short answer is Gaia 2 won't be out within at least the next 3 months, but I would hope to have it out within the next 6 months, hopefully earlier. It just depends on how funding goes and so on. My biggest challenge at the moment is procedural worlds, apart from the new guy, is just me. So I'm supporting 4 different products, building new products, also doing contract work, and it's all happening at once. So I just can't keep doing this, because I tend to work 7 days a week, and it sort of kills me. But getting to the point where I can scale the business, which means that you can bring way more interesting things, even what you think of as Gaia 2.
So you're not thinking about getting some like kind of just a support guy to come in and help you? By the way, everyone, thanks for all the follows coming in. You guys are fantastic. I don't like interrupting Adam when he's chatting, just to say thank you, but I can see you there, and thank you very much. Follows on Twitch are amazing. Just means that every time we go live, you guys also get a notification and you can come and join the fun again. So yeah, Adam, there's a few people that asset developers I've been speaking to recently all have the similar problem, where that they seem to spend more of their time supporting their asset than they do either developing it or making something new and fun. And like you just said, you're one guide now with 4 products, and these are huge products that are actually the most popular products on the asset store. So I can only imagine that you've got, like, throughout your day, tens if not hundreds of emails across different systems that you need to be supporting.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting thing. I tend to break my day up into different pieces. So I'm at my most creative early in the morning. So I try and ignore, Skype and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all that sort of stuff early on. I also have put in place a ticketed support system now, which is really brilliant, because it means nothing. One of the problems I used to have is I'd get bombarded by messages from so many different directions. I would, and I'm a bit of an insomniac, so I'd wake up at 2 a.m. for an hour, read it and go, yeah, I've got to get back to that person. Then I'd fall asleep, and the next day I've got up and I've forgotten. So now that I've got this ticketed support system, I'm able to actually do a much better job of responding to people, because it'll never get lost. And it's actually surprising, given, particularly those big sales where I do sell a lot of licenses, support is not as bad as you might expect. I think all the time that I've invested into creating tutorials and, also the forums and the community in general, it really helps a lot. The support system I use is called Freshdesk, I think, and I love it. And you'd be amazed at the sorts of people that reach out. I had the United States military reach out just before Christmas, and I'm working. Well, there's all sorts of interesting things going on.
Yeah, don't say anything that can get you arrested or guys in the black suits can take you away, mate.
But it's interesting. So Gaia has the ability, even the version 1 system of it has the ability to recreate real world environments. And so, there's a bunch of people out there that are very interested in replicating the real world so that they can use it for training and so on and so on. And actually, that's another really cool thing about the Freshdesk support system. As I get more and more of the same type of query, I'll actually write up a knowledge-based article on it so that people have got it.
So you'll find that since you moved over to using your ticketing system now and increasing your knowledge base, you actually don't need to pick up somebody to help you with support, because there's a lot of people even people in chat we've got here are thinking of getting themselves onto the asset store, making their first asset, and we're always getting questions, advice for new publishers, new developers, what pitfalls to avoid, what they can expect on the asset store being an asset creator?
Actually, I've got, so for anybody who is interested in learning more about how to work with the asset store, I did a presentation on the asset store at Unite in Melbourne in 2016, and also I contributed to a Unity blog on becoming an asset store publisher, because Gaia was one of the most successful launches ever of a product in the store. And so they would ask me, and this video, by the way, has been driven by Pegasus. Gaia did the terrain, CTS did the is doing the shading, and using integration with Enviro. I also built a timeline. There's a weather system called World API, which is free. If you look on my blog on my website, you'll see it, and that's actually synchronizing all of the weather effects with the terrain, with the environment, all through the same thing. I can give you a link to some of these documents for new publishers, and really, I just have broken down. This is what I do.
Well, the first part of this interview was so big, I had to chop it in half, and we'll be back with Adam Goodrich, the creator of Gaia, Gena, CTS, Pegasus, and a load more in the next video. And talking about Gaia, that's right, I told you we've got a copy of Gaia to give away. And we do. We've got a copy of Gaia to give away on my Twitch stream, www.twitch.tv/TheMessyCoder, this Saturday, 21st of April. And what time does the stream start? Well, if you're in the UK, British summertime, it's 9 PM. If you're in the States, you've got too many time zones. 1 PM PT, 3 PM CT, 4 PM ET. So let's phone home, and I'll see you all on the next video, and I'll see you on Twitch this Friday and Saturday, and you can get yourself a copy of Gaia. And once again, a massive thank you to Fine for giving us a copy of Gaia to give away. So guys, if you do like these videos, click on that big, juicy, red subscribe button down below. Tell all your friends, your neighbours, random people on the street. The Messy Coder is on Twitch, he's on YouTube, he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's anywhere that you can find somebody spamming some content. And if you do like it, click it. Till next time. If you want to see more of my crazy videos, click on the left side of your screen now, and down below there's that big juicy subscribe button, and right next to it is the magic bell that if you click it, it will tell you if I've got a new video coming out. Till next time.